And now, ladies and gentlemen, we're back to business as usual here with the Skaven showdown against Norsca. Should be quite a bit of fun. It's going to be THROTT the Unclean facing off against Wulfric. And this used to be a matchup that pre-DLC, I would say, was very, very hard for the Skaven. Norsca obviously has something that we'd like to call the Condom Wolves, aka the Skin Wolves, or as they're also known in the tournament circuit, Wind Wolves. Now, Skin Wolves are very good against Skaven for one big reason. They regenerate, and of course they have anti-large against light armor. And pretty much all the Skaven mass units like Hell Pit Abominations, Rat Ogres, and now Brood Horrors, of course, and some of the new assets they have are large and lightly armored. So Skin Wolves are able to vastly outvalue Rat Ogres, which you often use to defend your juicy parts of your army. And on top of that, some of the new tools, for example, like the Brood Horrors, which I believe I have two. Let's go ahead and check here. Yes, it's going to be THROTT the Unclean and a second Brood Horror, are very, very susceptible against the Skin Wolves. Now, the advantage you do have here with these monsters, from Clan Molders, you have 95 speed, and Skin Wolves are rocking 65 speed. So you can really choose the engagements, right? If Skin Wolves are a little bit isolated away from support, you can grab some Wolf Rats and your scary Brood Horrors and break them rather quickly, because you can fight back well. These Brood Horrors do hit hard enough to kill the Skin Wolf models outright, which does prevent the regeneration. So it's a bit of a game of cat and mouse, and I do think that the matchup is a little bit better for Skaven now. Granted, it still has its dangers, but it can be one for sure. So aside from that, we got Clan Rats in the front line, not Clan Rats, Skaven Slaves. We got a couple Clan Rat Spears in the secondary to help against Skin Wolves. And probably one of my new, no, it's not a new unit by any stretch of the imagination, but Poison Wind Globadiers. I've been using these in almost every matchup with Skaven. I found them to be very, very good. The splash damage will wreck Norscan infantry and the damage over time, of course, and they're basically like the Poison Wind Mortars. The Mortars, of course, have better range and can get value earlier, but in sustained combat, you have 36 models here of the Globadiers against the much lower count of the Mortar team. So you can see the math adds up, and yeah, they do some really solid damage. You guys will have to keep an eye on them over the course of this game. In the back, we got Skaven Slave Spears and 2 units of Wolf Rats just to help kind of chase things down. So if I do break Skin Wolves, I want to have something fast to chase them. We got THROTT the Unclean with his Creature Killer, his ability to give anti-large, and he does also have his Rat Ogre summon. And here we do also have a Packmaster. Packmaster does give passive healing to Molder monsters, which isn't going to be super useful for the Brood Horrors who already have healing, but it can heal the Morskatar's Hellion, which I thought was going to be kind of useful since this Rat Ogre is very strong. Firstly, he does magic damage, which circumvents the physical resist of Skin Wolves, and he also does have the Zap Zap ability, so if you're hitting a caster, it can add to their recharge rate, and he's got good AP to boot. That's pretty much it for my army. I know I rambled quite a bit there, but for Norsca, it's going to be fairly standard. Berserkers and Marauders in the front, Wulfric to just go ham in your front line. He's got a Shaman Sorcerer, a Burning Head here, Skin Wolves, in conjunction with some Marauder Horsemen just to focus down my big targets, which I think is certainly a very, very good inclusion. Now, the first Fireball is going to be coming out from the Flying Taco here, going after my Rats, but 95 speed is 95 speed, and we are able to juke that just barely. I was trying my best. I was like, "God, a kid, I must move." And here also we do have our Warp Lightning Cannon, which is another very good tool against Norsca. Warp Lightning Cannons have been relatively meta against Norsca, I would say, even before this DLC, for trying to pick off the Skin Wolves before things get a little bit too crazy. So Norsca is coming in here with the Marauder Horsemen and doing a little bit of poking harass, so I do send the Wolf Rats out to try and chase them down and just kind of force them back and keep them honest and buy a little bit of time and minimize the damage that is coming in on more valuable targets. So second Fireball going down on the Packmaster, who is weak to fire, mind you, because it is a regenerating monster. However, the Shaman Sorcerer here is, yeah, it's getting some steady incremental damage. Granted, I do think using Fireball to maybe snipe my artillery pieces or something might be a little bit better, but Warp Lightning Cannon here still blasting away those Armored Skin Wolves who are lurking in the back here, and now the forces of Norsca are closing in. I did scoot up here to try and get my Poisoned Wind Globadiers to do some damage, but couldn't quite reach those bad boys. Same thing on the other side here, the Marauders are pulling back. They do get tagged pretty good, and now the Skin Wolves are charging in. It looks like Norsca is going to be going for its Alpha Strike. Now here's a pretty good engagement. I do get the Packmaster with Creature Killer and also THROTT the Unclean, both of whom now have the anti-large bonus to attack Wulfric, and they're doing some huge damage. There are some Skin Wolves nearby, but I felt pretty comfortable with my speed, that these Rats would be able to waddle away after doing a little bit of a hit and run, and I really do think that's one of the big strengths there of those guys. Globadiers doing some huge damage against the Norscan Wolves, and also the Mutant Rat Ogre ROR is going to come Space Jam them. And now you can see the Norscan Wolves probably will be breaking soon, although it looks like they are going for a beeline for the back line here. So in response, I send in the Wolf Rats with Poison. I feel like it's magic. In response, I would like to counterspell, but the Wolf Rat's going to be coming in with Poison and Spears and actually locking down. And I feel like Wolf Rats aren't bad against Skin Wolves since they are infantry-sized, but even still, the Skin Wolves with Marauder support are able to buckle them rather quickly, but here the Globadiers are able to get back. Now back in the front line, Burning Head's going down, roasting through my Skaven troops, but like I said, THROTT the Unclean and his Packmaster are able to goon out individual units of Skin Wolves that are isolated. So here we are able to chase down those Skin Wolves. Now we're going to be pulling back to try and secure this Warp Lightning Cannon. which has been doing good steady damage against Wulfric all game. Now, as far as the frontline fight goes, as expected, my poor Skaven slaves are being beaten down and mangled pretty badly, but the Globadiers are still firing, and even still, in the fourth quarter here, the Globadiers unleashing shots against Wulfric, and they do impact damage in conjunction with explosion damage, so you can typically get some really good dual value out of those guys. And here you can see Wulfric is taking quite a bit of damage as the Packmasters are supported by the Plague Furnace and doing some nice roasting effects here on the Marauder Berserkers, and yeah, pushing those guys off, and yeah, Wulfric, man, taking a metric ton of damage. Now, a bit of a bad situation in the back line, certainly going to be very good for the Flying Taco. He gets his Berserkers back here and forces me off the Warp Lightning Cannon, so now there's going to be much less pressure at a distance on top of Wulfric, and he could potentially capitalize on this by chasing down my globes here, which are one of the only other things I really have to, you know, poke at him without having to go fisticuffs. But I think he's damaged enough now that the Packmaster and THROTT the Unclean can't afford to get in and go fisticuffs, and yeah, the rats are throwing up all over the Mammoth. This is great. This is Warhammer in a nutshell, man. Good old fantasy grimdark action. You gotta love it. Now here, although I would say fantasy's a lot more comedic, of course, than 40k and all that grimdark stuff. But the globes are being pushed back. These skin wolves are finally penetrating in. They've ripped off their condom shells, and now they're coming after the Globadiers here, and could potentially be a bit of a problem. We will see. Plague Furnace trying to fall back, but for the first time, we do pull a little bit ahead on the balance of power, as the two Packmasters are going to be going after Wulfric the Wanderer, and they are able to break him, which is good. So he's at -18, -21 leadership, and the Skin Wolves are now pushing in, but I do have Plague Monk support. Plague Monks could put up a decent fight against Marauders, and it's really nice that these guys do cause terror as well. Granted, many of the Norscan units do have Frenzy and mechanics to make them immune to psychology, but generally speaking, I feel like it's still really, really good against these type of factions. So here you can see the Packmaster is hunting down Wulfric, but I didn't want to use something so valuable to try and chase down Wulfric. And this is something Skaven couldn't do before, right? Normally you'd have to use Rat Ogres or something expensive, but now you have these really cheap Wolf Rats who are going to be going and nipping at the heels of Wulfric and trying to keep him from coming back. We are caught by some of the Condom Wolves, which are doing some good damage, but, you know, the Packmaster plus THROTT with all their abilities and also the fact that they're healing should be able to beat a very tattered, you know, unit of Skin Wolves here. Nice little fireball coming in there. Ooh, man, that did a bunch of damage against THROTT the Unclean, but with Creature Killer, giving bonus first large to both these units, the Skin Wolves are not going to be lasting terribly long. And up on the high ground, the Plague Furnace was able to win their engagements, and the Norsca's Hellion was able to clean up. But the Globadiers firing for most of that game, I feel, was one of the big factors. And on top of that, the Packmaster plus THROTT being able to manhandle Wulfric, because usually Wulfric, in the history of that matchup, you'd be seeing like Deathmaster or Skrulk or, you know, sometimes a Gracier on a Bell, all of which, you know, Wulfric could just manhandle and push past you. But now you have a way of fighting back with your two monstrous characters. You can get in front of Wulfric, you can stop him, which, you know, keeps the Norskins from getting into your main lines as easy, because historically Wulfric would just C-Fang your front line and just go balls deep in there. But I think it's much harder to do now. So yeah, we got the these guys doing well, but you guys ready for the MVPs? Here it comes. Look at that. 13,000 damage and 15,000 damage. 1.3 and 1.1, which is about as much as my Lords and more than the Packmaster for only 550 gold, which is an absolute steal. Wolf Rats did okay. Warp Lightning Cannon did very good, and the Norsca's Hellion did good. So before the game, something to point out, if you were playing in a tournament, the build I brought, I was just, you know, not used to the new units, and it just occurred to me during the game, and Taco and I actually talked about it, and he's just decided, you know, let's just play the game out. But this would probably be a little bit of a too many single entities, right? So you have the two Packmasters plus the Furnace. So if you guys wanted to take this build into a tournament, honestly, the Norsca's Hellion Mutant Rat Ogre wasn't that good, and I think you could easily cut him. So what you would do is keep the two Packmasters and the Plague Furnace, and just honestly cut the Hellion and replace it with, you know, any number of things. You could get like the Council Guard, you could get more spear units, you could get some Skaven Slave Slingers, some Night Runners, to even focus down the Skin Wolf characters. So that would be totally fine, and I think the build would be just as efficient. Honestly, the Norsca's Hellion didn't really do that much anyways, but yeah, just something to point out for anyone who's interested in tournament play. But Taco's build was good. I think, you know, one thing it could use is just more Skin Wolves. You know, maybe cut the armored variants and just get like more regular Skin Wolves would be my 2 cents. But again, he's probably a better Norscan player than I am, so that would just be my opinion. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this glorious Skaven versus Norscan showdown. I think the matchup still has a lot to be explored. I think that if Norsca came in with more Skin Wolves and more Javelins, kind of, we'll go ahead and show you guys a build like this. I still like Wulfric though. I still think he's really disruptive and can really wreck Skaven lines. And not everyone's going to bring, you know, that Lord combination, right? So so let's go ahead and find Norsca. Also, something to look at. Vlad actually got AP, so you can see here Vladdy Daddy did get some nice buffs, as did many of the foot characters. So Norsca, we can go ahead and stick with Wulfric on the Mammoth. I think that's fine. Cut these abilities here, and we don't need that. From here, I think just getting a front line of Marauders is going to be good. You can still mix in some Berserkers if you want to. It's always nice to have that sustained punch in there. Anyways, from here, I think just going for basic Skin Wolves, you can get like 4 of those, and that's going to be pretty nasty. And then you can get some Javelins too. I like using Javelins a lot. I think they're pretty good against the, like 3 Marauder Hunter Javelins just peppering into, you know, Molder monsters is going to kill them incredibly quick. Like, it's going to be a huge problem. So let's got a couple Marauders there. I think that's fine. And then from here, a Firecaster is good. A Deathcaster is still pretty good for Spirit Leeching characters. Like, you have a number of options, but you get a Firecaster and just get like Fireball and Burning Head, for example, and, you know, Cascading Fire Cloak. And you can see you even have some money left over to get some like Hound units, so if you wanted to get like some Hounds. Anyways, guys, hopefully you enjoyed this one. We'll see you back with more content soon, and you guys stay safe in these dire times. Cheers, my friends.